Hi, everybody. It's Kathy Ondas with Simply Cards by Kathy. And we're coming on just a minute early to give people a chance to get on. Hopefully, you can see me well and hear me well. If you're with me, please give me a shout out and let me know that you can hear me and see everything okay. Um, so, we're going to get started in a minute. Today's just to let today is Monday. I almost forgot that, February 28th, and we're getting ready to go into March, which I will be very happy to do. So we're going to get started, and today we're going to play with Hello Ladybug. And we're going to make these two cards. I've done a lot of the prep work so that we do have time to do two cards today. So we're going to work on this one first. And then we're going to do this one that where we made our own DSP, or our own designer paper. I'm going to move these off for just a minute. And I'm going to bring in the mini catalog, just so that you know that if you're interested at all in this bundle, it's on page 20 of the January to June mini catalog. Some really cute cards. And this bundle consists of the stamp set along with a punch. So I am going to show you how to use that punch today because it can be a little tricky. And we're going to have some fun. So let's move this off to the side. And as we get started, there's some things I want to go over with you. I am using everything from the Hello Ladybug bundle, except for on the birthday card, I use the happy birthday greeting from Special Moments, which was a celebration stamp set. So I just wanted to let you know that in case we get to that part and you're wondering where I got the hello from. So this is a photopolymer stamp set, and a lot of the stamps I have out and ready to go. So just to let you know, photopolymer will stain, especially with the reds and the purples, but it doesn't affect the stamp quality at all. Even though I clean these off immediately, they're still going to get some staining to them. So we're going to start with, let's start with this card first. And I'm going to just leave it up here in the corner. And I'm going to bring everything in. Now, the paper that I used for this, the designer series paper, is from the All Together bundle that is currently for sale now. And this is all black and white paper. And outside of the hands that you can use for that coloring, it's a variety of designs. And so I picked paper from this because I really like it. I love black and white. I think it gives some boldness and just brings out the colors that you use. Also for this card, I used the layering circle dies, which I have right here. And for this card, I used the second largest of the straight edge, and then I used the second and third smallest for the greeting, and those are pre-cut. So I'm going to move those off to the side, and in the video description, I talked about using one piece of 6x6 designer series paper that would do both cards. So I'm going to show you what I did with it so that you understand and you can replicate it. This was a 6x6 piece, and I cut it down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Now for this card, we're going to cut out the center so that we have like a peekaboo window. And we're going to use this for the pink card. So we're going to set that off to the side. Once you cut it, you have this at 4 1/4, 1 1/4 inch piece of paper. I cut this into 2 7/8 strips, and then I had a 1/8 strip left. And the 1/8 strip is gonna go on this card. And then the 2 7/8 strips are going to be used for the pink card. And you'll see as we do that. So you use one piece of paper for 2 cards. So let's go ahead and get started here. So what I did is I took my paper, designer series paper, and because I used the straight edge circle die, I just eyeballed it so that it's a little bit towards the top and in the middle of the piece of paper, and ran it through my stamp cut and emboss machine. And this is what you get. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and lay this over, and I'm going to take a pencil. And what I'm going to do is just mark very lightly where I'm going to stamp. And I literally just put a dot so that, I don't know if you can see this. Let me bring it up for you. But I have just some little marks that I'm going to stamp my leaf for the card in here. So let's go ahead and we're going to get that ready to do. And the colors I'm using for this card is Real Red, Pear Pizzazz, and my Tuxedo Black. So we're going to get our Pear Pizzazz out because that's going to be our leaf. Now, because they're photopolymer stamps, I am stamping on a piercing mat, and I have my piercing mat covered with a piece of typewriter paper and a piece of my grid paper. So I'm going to go ahead, excuse me for reaching over, and we're just going to ink this up. And I'm going to ink it good, and I am going to stamp off just to make sure I have a good image. So I want to make sure that I get a really good cover on this stamp. And one of I tend to, with larger stamps, ink upside down. It helps to keep me from getting covered in the ink. And I can see the coverage on my stamp. So I'm going to go ahead and go in between those little dots. Now let me push this up so you can see it. And I'm going to just press down and give it a good push because I want to make sure I have good coverage. Now, if you're worried about the coverage, you can certainly use your Stamparatus, and that allows you to re-ink and restamp without worrying about not getting it on the image you already have. So I'm happy with that. And what I'm going to do now is go ahead and I'm just going to erase those pencil marks very lightly. And they're actually mostly going to get covered up with the designer series paper. Okay, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to adhere my paper to the front of the card. And I'm going to use my glue to do that. And I tend to like the glue more just because it gives me the ability that if I need to move that around a little bit, I have some wiggle room and it slides a little better. So I'm just going to go around the edges of the circle because I want to make sure it adheres, and also the edge of the card in the circle. And we're going to go ahead and scoot that up a little bit. And again, that's why I use the glue. There we go. And hopefully you don't hear that truck in the background. Okay. And the one thing I didn't do before I did that was fold my card. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn it over, and I am going to grab my bone folder here, and we're just going to give it a good burnishing. There we go. All right, now the next thing is we're going to do the punch for our little ladybug. So I'm going to bring that in, and we're going to unlatch it. And I'm going to turn it over, and you can see that the wings are on this side and the little body of the ladybug is on this side. I keep all my scrap paper, and you just need a small piece. And I'm just going to slide it in here because I don't want to waste paper if I don't have to. And just going to punch them out. And then I'm going to do the same with my red. Now the red is a piece of scrap paper I had. I keep all my scrap paper in, each one has a baggie, and it's in file folders. And that way, as I'm stamping, I can go ahead and pull out what I need. So very easy to do. Okay, so here's our little ladybug. And the thing that we need to do with it is put the dots on for her wings. And that is a stamp that we're going to pull out here. And you have the dots for that. So I'm going to go ahead, and we are going to stamp these with the black memento. And again, I am going to pull in my mat because having worked with the photopolymer so much, I know that sometimes if I don't use the mat, I don't get the images that I want. Just going to press down, and there we go. That easy. So now I'm just going to take a little bit of glue, and we're going to attach those wings to our ladybug's body. And I'm going to put her on with Stampin' Dimensionals so that she pops up a little bit. And I'm going to just put one here and one here. I hope you're all having a really good day. And I just want to remind you that celebration ends tomorrow. So if there's something you're looking for, the mini catalog stays until the end of June, but celebration goes away as of midnight tonight, Mountain Time. So there's our little ladybug. And then the flowers are also from this stamp set. I'm going to bring them in. And I did stamp them and fussy cut them. And I did those ahead of time also, just because I didn't think you'd want to watch me fussy cut. And I'm not a great fussy cutter, so it takes me a little bit to get them the way I want to. So I'm going to pop these up with Stampin' Dimensionals. And then I'm just going to put those up here at the top. Okay, now for my greeting, I used the layering circle dies like I showed you, and I used the greetings that said hello and my friend from this stamp set, and I'm going to show you how I did that. I wanted to be able to stamp them without stamping them individually. So what I did is I just lined them up on my grid paper where I wanted placement. And then I went ahead and picked them up with my, let's move this out of the way so I'm not wearing it. I went ahead and picked them up with my stamp. And then I was able to stamp them. So that way, if I was going to mess up, I'd mess up with just one time instead of getting one right and having to restamp. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to add this, and we're going to use glue again. And then I didn't want to pop this up since I already had the flowers and the ladybug popped up. And you could even move it over to the side. I put this little ladybug down a little more. So I think I'm going to move this over here. And we're going to go ahead and glue this down. And then we're going to add some decorate the flowers. Now, when I did this card, I used, which is already retired, I used the matte decorative dots only because I had a lot of them and I wanted to kind of use them up. But today we're going to use the in color jewels that are in the annual catalog. And I'm going to go ahead and pull in my I just think to add a little bit to the flowers just gives it a little bit more dimension, and this makes it a little bit more interesting. So we'll add these in color jewels in the yellow color, and I'm going to use a small one. Well, maybe. Let's go to a big one here, and we'll put that up here. And then we're still going to use the small one, and I'm going to scoot it over to the center. And then we're going to get a small one and put it right here. So there's the outside of our card. Okay, and let's go to the inside. And we have a little ladybug that we stamped in here. So one of the things I wanted to do with this one that I didn't do with the card I originally showed you was to add just a little strip of paper. Remember I said you have that 1/8 inch strip. And I want to add it down here so it almost looks like the ladybug is walking on the paper. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that down, and then we're going to just snip it off at the end. I would love to hear if you have this stamp set and you've used it, or if you like it. Okay, I'm going to flip this over, and I have a pair of snips that are pretty old from Stampin' Up! That I use for when I have glue or something on the paper. All right, and we're going to stamp our greeting. And the outside of our card said, "Hello, my friend." And then I thought I'd put on there, "You can bug me anytime." So let's get that out here. And again, I use my grid paper simply because I am not a straight stamper. I do terrible at stamping straight. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that in and bring in my memento. And I do stamp off and make sure that it's straight before I go to the card. Try that again. That looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and stamp this. And all I do is line up the cards so that it's pretty straight. And I'm going to go ahead and just, that looks pretty good. So now we want to stamp our little ladybug. So we're going to pull in the pieces for that. And the pieces we're going to use is this little guy. And then we are going to use the wings, or the dots. The dots, not the wings. So the body, I'm sorry. So let's go ahead, and I had that right here, and we're going to go ahead and stamp. And we're going to stamp him in black. And then we're going to go ahead and stamp the body in red. So let's go ahead and ink him up. Okay, I think think we're pretty good here. And because you have the photopolymer stamp, it's easy to see where you're going to put them. That looks pretty good. And now we're going to go over and we're going to use the real red. We're going to put the body for him on. And we're going to ink it up with real red and stamp the body. And again, because it's photopolymer, you can see where you're going to lay it. And I'm trying not to get my head in the way of the camera. So hopefully I got it. And that looks pretty good. So here's our first card. So, and here what I'll do, because the paper was a little larger, I will go in with my trimmer and I will just trim that right off. So here's our first card. And now let's go on to the second one. Okay, so we're going to bring this in. And this is our second card. So let's go ahead, and the first thing I want to do is we are using 3 of these in this card. So I went ahead and made them up ahead of time so that you wouldn't have to watch me punch and stamp 3 of them. And I also stamped our greeting. Remember I said I used the third largest or third smallest die for this, and it's stamped. And this is also from the LadyBug, May Your Greatest Wish Come True. And this is that piece of paper that we cut out when we made our last card. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to adhere these so we have all these small pieces, parts out of the way. Okay. And let's do our inside and get that out of the way. So this is our inside. The card again is 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. My inside is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to glue this down to the inside of our card and attach our little ladybug, and this will be all done. We'll be ready to, I'm going to flip this over and move that out of the way. We'll be ready to just adhere this once we're done. So there's our inside. We will take one of our ladybugs and glue her down. I love the way I decide if they're him or her. So let's set that off and we're ready to put that in. Now let's take our cardstock and I'm going to go ahead and fold it. And we're going to burnish it with our bone folder. And I'm going to go ahead and set that off to the side. Now what we're going to do is make our designer series paper. And to do that, we're going to use that large leaf. And let me get that out for us again. We're going to use the large leaf, and we are going to use the little flowers that I showed you. So let's go ahead and grab our leaf and put it on the block. Okay. And we're going to use our pear pizzazz like we did before. And again, I want to make sure it's inked up really well. So I am going to go in from the top. Okay. And you want to be careful that you don't get the ink on. So I have a microfiber cloth that I keep on my desk. And if I do get some of that, I go ahead and just wipe it off. So I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to start stamping. And again, I'm using my piercing mat. And I'm going to re-ink. And I'm just going to come in from the side here because I want to get some of that here. And I'm going to ink off the paper. And then you just keep doing your design. Each one is going to be different. They're never the same. And then I'm just going to get a little bit here on the edge. And I'm going to turn it a little bit. Okay, so there's a green. And you can see I have a little bit of overlap here where it's darker, but that's going to be easy to cover up because I can put my ladybug there. So for the flowers, we're going to use polished pink. And what I'm going to do with these is, with these I stamped off just because I wanted a little bit duller color. So I'm going to come in here. I guess I'm going to go like this and stamp. I don't want to get it on the leaves, so I'm going to go with just one of the flowers and stamp, and the rest is stamped off. I'm going to do the same here with the small flower. I'm going to come in over here. And then I want to add one here just to give it a little bit of color. Okay. So there's our designer series paper. And we're done with stamping. So I'm going to move that off. Now, remember I told you I had 2 pieces of paper that I had cut. Well, this is going to be, you can see on this card where I added it. So all I'm going to do is glue this down to here so that we have an edge. And what I did is I want it to be the same on both sides. So I'm going to make sure I adhere it so the double dots are about even. So let's just go ahead and I'm going to add some glue to this right on the edge here. Hopefully my head isn't in the way of the camera. Okay, and then I'm just going to flip this over and add some glue to this edge too. And then again, because I want it right on the edge of the double row, here's our piece of designer series paper for our card. So we're going to go ahead and now I'm going to use glue and I'm going to adhere this to the front of our card. So really 2 cards that are pretty easy to do, and it's just a lot of fun playing with this stamp set and the punch. I really like that. Now we're going to pop up and we'll put one here and we're going to put one here, kind of turned in. And I'm going to pop those up with Stampin' Dimensionals. So let me bring those in. If you've liked this video and you're watching on YouTube, I would love if you'd give me a thumbs up and help me grow my channel. If you do not have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator or need a catalog, I would be honored to be your demonstrator and help you with your crafting needs. And hopefully you've enjoyed the video. Now if you also, I do a weekly newsletter to keep you up to date on Stampin' Up! And give you some stamping ideas. Just hit that button up at the top that says subscribe. And I send them out on Wednesdays. I pre-stamped my greeting, again, the happy birthday. So I'm going to go ahead and put that with Stampin' Dimensionals also. I use a lot of Stampin' Dimensionals. Every time I place an order, I add 3 or 4 packs to it. And this one, I think I'm going to go right in here. I'm going to tuck them under the wings a little bit. There. So there's our front. Now we can adhere our inside of our card. And we've just made 2 cards using one 6x6 sheet of designer series paper. And we'll bring them all in and see what you think. So here's our cards, and they are the same, or pretty much the same, but you can see we made just a few changes in placements for greetings. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a wonderful day. I will be back on Thursday to do another live video. Watch my Facebook and YouTubes for posting of the time. And you have a great day and explore your love of stamping and paper crafting. See you soon.